Okay, welcome everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is day, I don't know, 6 or 106 of Stories for Healing, project we started to try and address the fact that, we live in some very difficult times. We live in a very divided environment. It might be your community, it might be your country, it might be the world, but we're not going to get past the divisions until we start hearing stories from each other, until we stop telling each other, this, you're right, and I'm right, and you're wrong, and all that other kind of divisive stuff. So we're here in this project twice a day to hear stories about healing from storytellers. And today we're very fortunate to have with us a wonderful storyteller by the name of Here's Crow. So Here's Crow, would you please tell us a story?
What a silly question to ask a storyteller. Absolutely. Um, I'm very blessed because I've had a couple of healing stories that have been handed down to me. My ma passed away about a year and a half, almost 2 years ago now, and she was a storyteller. This is one of the stories that come from, this one was from Freeman Owl, um, born in 1946 on the Kuala Boundary. He was what we call a Cherokee, a Tsalagi, actually. And this is the Woman of the Wolf Clan and the Medicine. And for your interest, and I trust entertainment, I'd like to share it with you because it's an important story and it's a privilege to carry it forward and share it with you. Long, long ago in the Blue Ridge Mountains, an old man so feeble that he could all but stumble out of the woods towards a village where there were several Tsalagi clans. He was burning up with fever and covered with oozing sores. He saw a young woman near the stream. She had a big basket of berries, and he approached her and asked for her help. Well, she stumbled back in such fear at seeing him that she almost spilled all the berries. But she said, I don't know who you are. I can't help you. Go away. I don't know how to do healing. Well, he was a little surprised and startled at her reaction, but he backed right up and headed back for the woods and went around the rest of that village. Her clan might be able to help him, but maybe the next one would. And so he came to that next village. And he came up to a woman who was standing there with her child among a cluster of lodges. And as he walked towards her, seeking help, she grabbed her child and said, do not come closer. Do not touch us. If you are cursed, you might kill my child. You must leave here. He said, I was only looking for some clan women to be able to, go away. Oh, uh, the old man stumbled back. Now his knees were beginning to collapse underneath him, and he didn't know if he could make it all the way to the next village, which was quite a distance. Now all of these people were Tsalagi, but they had different clans, and they seemed very far apart. But he made it to the third village. And the old man stuttered, nearly breathless now. He came to a woman and he said, is there anything you can do to help me remember what it was to be healthy? And this young woman looked at him and she said, I know nothing of medicine, but please come in, lie down on these soft pelts. And with that, the women in her lodge helped him. They took off his shirt and his leggings, and they began to bathe him so that he was cool and clean. They had a bit of broth cooking on the fire. And once he was laid down and settled, he could not even get up to sip the broth. So she took a wooden spoon and put it right at the edge of his lips and just poured it in. And as painful as it was, for there were sores inside as well, he swallowed it a little at a time and was soon fast asleep. Well, the women spoke while he slept very quietly and said, "What can we do? We have to help this man. We can see that he is an old, wise one, but he is dreadfully ill. He's forgotten what it is to be strong and healthy. What can we do?" And they talked and talked through the night, but there was no help for it. They woke up in the morning and he began to stir and he rolled over. And this day, he was able to put his elbow underneath him and lift himself up into kind of a half sitting position. And he said, "Good morning." And although he was still very ill, it was clear that the rest and the care and the broth made with herbs that they didn't even know about had helped. So the women asked if there was anything else they could do to help his body to remember. When the old man asked her, would she go out into the woods and would she harvest some cherry bark? And do not forget to make an offering to the tree, to ask its permission, to say thank you if you are granted the boon. And with that, she said, "Yes, grandfather, I will do that." And when she returned, she had fresh cherry bark. You could smell it on her hands. And he said to make a tea from it. Nothing else, just the wild cherry bark and hot water from the basket. And that's what she did. And she gave him the cherry bark. This time he was able to hold the cup with two hands and he could drink it himself. And by the next morning, the cold had left him and he was no longer chilled. So the second day, when she asked, "Is there anything more I can do?" he suggested that she might go and get the inner bark of the white willow. She never asked him a question. She trusted the strength of his spirit and his wisdom. She knew that he was remembering how to be healthy. And so she went out and got the willow bark and she brought it back. And he showed her how to make a poultice, which is to grind the bark and add a little moisture to it. Some will add a bit of the saliva from a healthy person to help people remember. And that poultice was taken in her hands and she placed it on the sides of his face. And she placed it on his forehead and his arms and chest, all over his body. And each touch of her hands was filled with medicine. But the medicine was not just the white willow bark, not just the saliva, because her hands touched and he felt her compassion. She held no resentment or fear of him. She wished only for his memory to return. And each place she touched him, the sores grew smaller and smaller. He also drank the white willow bark tea, which had eased the pain and lowered the fever. And through the next few days, the fever continued to go down until it returned to the body's health. Now, each day in that week And in the weeks that followed, he stayed with those people. He slept on the floor of that woman's lodge, and he seemed to almost grow not only healthier, but younger. And she and he talked a great deal. She apologized for the women from the other clans who did not help him. And he said, that will be forgiven. They spoke out of fear and ignorance. They did not know who or what I was or how to help me. She said, but when you came to me, I didn't do anything special. He said, you did. You opened your arms and made a safe place for me to be. You did not heal me, but you facilitated my healing with your integrity and compassion. Before he left, he went to the chief and he asked if the chief could gather the clans together. And the chief, seeing the difference between that old man who barely stumbled into camp and the man who stood before him now, and he agreed. He said to his people, come, sit, listen. And the old man stood up strong on straight legs, and his hands and face were without sores. And there was a gentleness about him, almost a light that quieted the crowd, waiting for him to speak. And he said, many seasons, many passings have happened since Creator taught me the medicine plants and the animals that wish us to be well. I was taught to be careful who I shared this knowledge with, and I have done that. I have shared it with very few. Those of you who did not help, I understand. It is forgiven and forgotten. But from now on, the women of the Wolf clan of the Tsalagi people will be the carriers of the medicines. If you need them, you need only come and ask. No one will be turned away, and they will help each and every person that they can. And if you are willing to come together, move your lodges closer to one another. Reach out to one another as you would reach out to them in need, because all of us are in need. And because these women were so kind with me, they now carry the medicine of remembering. Oh, and that's Freeman Al's story with a little of my own interpretation that I got from my ma. And it's the women of the Wolf Clan and how they came to have the medicine from Kuala Boundary. Thank you.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Here's Crow. And beautiful and so timely, really so timely. I noticed something in your approach to this, in the people's approach to this, which is to remember what health is rather than to be cured. And I find that very powerful for me. That's the way I try and look at the world too. But what a difference it makes when we say we're not trying to cure something, but we're trying to remember what it is to be healthy. Um,
And that was a gift from my ma. She is the one who taught me that. She said almost no one says that today.
yeah,
But that was
yeah,
always the way it was spoken to. And so, carrying the story, I carry the responsibility, because she said an intruder can disrupt a community, a nation, a body, a family.
Hmm.
And so whenever an intruder shows up, the first thing we do is to try to remember.
Try to remember. Beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have now had yet another story of healing, a wonderful story. And we'll have another two. We have an extra special evening tonight. We have two stories
Oh,
together. The only time so far that I know that that's going to happen. We have almost 40 storytellers joining us over the course of this. And that's just for the first 3 weeks. I'm sure we'll have more. We're growing and growing. And that's because we all need healing. So please come back, listen to us live, or go to the YouTube playlist where you can see all these stories as they're collected there. If you've missed some, you can see them there. If you loved some and you want to watch them again, go right ahead, please. Thank you very much and have a great evening. Bye bye.